On this episode of Let's Talk Tourism, Benaiah heads west to talk to Thomas Price, the director of CTC Conservation Center, a home to some very rare animals, close to Uganda's capital, Kampala. Join him as he brings you a peek into this yet-to-launch wildlife facility, while he chats captive breeding and its importance in the preservation of biodiversity.
Greetings everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Tourism. I find myself here at CTC, just outside Mpigi town, and we just had an incredible morning and afternoon just sharing space with some unique animals. And joining me this afternoon is Thomas, who is the proprietor of this wonderful facility. If you are new to the channel, please do the way we do it. Give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you are new here. Right on, Thomas, do you mind just letting us know a bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Thomas Price. I was born and raised in Switzerland, and since I was a young kid I always had a passion for wildlife. And I used to go to Kenya on holidays with my parents, and we used to go to the snake park in Mombasa, and I used to really be fascinated by reptiles at that time mostly. So I grew up keeping reptiles in Europe as a young boy and as a teenager later on, and then as my passion grew in 1994 I came to Uganda for the first time on my own and made a lot of connections here, got to know a lot of people. And ever since, I've actually been on and off in Uganda since 1994, more than Kenya. And I wrote my first scientific article on a chameleon from Tanzania when I was 16, which was published in Salamandra, a German magazine. And I gave some speeches in universities in Austria about the captive husbandry of chameleons those days. And I always have been along that path. My family is a family of scientists. My father is a biochemist. My mother is a lab technician. My father used to keep snakes at home when I was young, so that's probably how I got into the reptiles a little bit. And this project here has just always been sort of my dream, so I'm just sort of fulfilling my passion more than the work. It's not really the business aspect, but much more the passion, because it's not an easy project either. It really takes a lot of dedication and a lot of passion. So it's been quite a struggle, but I'm happy where we've reached so far, and we still have a long way to go. We're still doing baby steps, growing slow by slow, but we're going in the right direction.
Oh, but we had an incredible time already.
I'm happy to hear that.
I think by the moment when you open the doors to everyone, I'm sure everyone's going to have an incredible time. Right on, do you want to tell us more about why CTC Conservation Center and what is it all about? Just for someone who might be aspiring to probably come and get to know more about it in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have three aspects here. What we do is we have a tourism sector where we're obviously hoping to open up for tourism, for tourists to come, domestic as well as international tourism, because the domestic tourism is also growing, especially now during this COVID. We saw that actually domestic tourism can also pick up quite well. So that's one aspect. Then we have educational, where we also want to do outreach programs where we might go to schools and just with some few ambassador animals, a few snakes or maybe some of the tame cats, things like that, where people actually, or students especially, can learn a little bit, just basic primary schools, learn a little bit about the animals. And then we also do captive breeding commercially, but also for conservation purposes. So the Ugandan species which we have here, which we're breeding, some of them are common, others are more rare or endangered. Others are common in nature, but very rare in collections or in zoos, like the African golden cats. So it's based on three different legs, let's say. There's education, then there's tourism, and the conservation and breeding projects.
Perfect. Where do your animals come from? We saw quite a number of African lions. Yes. We did have some fun time with the lions, and we'll
Happy
play
to
those
hear.
pictures in a moment. We, of course, you said the golden cat, the civets, the
Serval cats,
caracals. Oh my,
caracalas,
you have a lot.
yes.
I'm interested. Where do all these animals come from?
So the majority of animals we do source here in Uganda as a breeding stock. So we're allowed to source a few specific animals. We're given a list of species which we're allowed to work with, and then we can collect a small amount of breeding stock with which we start breeding. We have to collect them outside of protected areas, obviously. And at the moment, there still are several areas out of protected areas where some of these animals are found, like the serval cats, for instance. Most chicken farmers who have chicken farms are familiar with them because they like to raid the chicken houses and steal chickens because they like to eat chickens. But they're becoming less and less. And I mean, I remember in the 90s when I used to be in this area, we used to drive towards Mityana. There used to be a lot of forest, even just on that road going towards Mityana. There's hardly any forest left on that road now. So a lot of the areas where these animals used to be have been removed or cleared, let's say. So we're trying to still source a few animals from the few areas outside of protected areas where they occur. And the majority of the animals we have here are sourced in Uganda. Some exceptions are there. For example, the lions, because we have very few lions in Uganda, and they're only in the parks, of course. We don't have lions free roaming outside, so we can't source them here. So those we imported from South Africa. They were captive born and raised there. And same for one of our servals, he's from South Africa. Our caracal is from South Africa. We have 2 young hyenas which just arrived 2 days ago. Yeah, they're still sort of adjusting and in quarantine, so they're still a little bit on the side. One project we're working on right now, which has already been approved, is we're reintroducing the African painted dog, which is extinct in Uganda currently. Or if, then there are very, very, very few fragment populations remaining, but it's technically extinct in Uganda. So we're importing a few of those from South Africa for breeding, with the potential to possibly reintroduce them to suitable parks that we will work together hand in hand with UA to determine the potential for reintroduction and where there would be a possibility. But at least there will be, it will be possible to see them again in Uganda. So
okay, yeah. When you talked about reintroduction, and of course you already mentioned UA, you kind of got that out of my mouth.
Yes, yes.
I'm interested in knowing what relationship you have with Uganda Wildlife Authority.
Yes.
Of course, you did mention one of the aspects of the project is the conservation element.
Yes, yes. Well, UA is the regulatory authority, obviously, so we have to work hand in hand with UA and we have to apply for permits for everything, and it's all regulated by UA. So we do cooperate and work hand in hand with UA, and as the years go by, the cooperation is becoming easier and better, and things are going smoother. And yeah, we hope that in future we get closer and closer and can do things together with UA for the benefit of conservation.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Now, just 2 more questions.
Sure.
What is it like to finance a project like this? I know when you talk to a number of conservation organizations, it takes quite a lot of fundraising.
Yes.
For animals like the lion,
Mm-hmm.
because of how majestic they are, I think it's usually easier to get people convinced into donating
Yes,
or
yes.
paying some money towards the conservation of a species.
Yes, yes.
But when you talk about animals like you call it the painted
African painted dogs.
African painted dog.
Yep.
How easy is it for you to raise finances to maintain
Well,
a facility?
It's a serious challenge because we started this project in 2015. That's when we were licensed and we started buying this land. Well, I started buying this land, let's say it that way. And everything is self-financed up to this point. We don't have donors, we don't have investors, we don't have sponsors. I've saved throughout my life and had some money gathered, and since this was my dream, I decided to invest heavily on this project. But yeah, very challenging, and business here, as everybody who does business in Uganda knows, it can be very challenging when you're doing your own business, and there are several delays which normally shouldn't necessarily be there. So it's been very challenging to be quite honest, but at least where we've reached now, I see, let's say, the light at the end of the tunnel. Things are getting better, but it's been very challenging, very cost intensive. The infrastructure itself is cost intensive, but as you mentioned, the animals like the lions cost me more than my own food, or even the school fees for my daughter will cost me. So they're expensive to feed, and so are all the other animals. But yeah, it's something which is worth it to me because it is my passion. And as we open for tourism and other things will come up, hopefully the funding will become easier as well, so that I don't have to pay it all out of my pocket at some point. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, just finally, do you want just let the viewers, of course I know you're not open yet.
Yes, yes.
But I guess you probably have like some social media presence.
Yes.
I did meet an awesome team of staff that you have here.
Thank you very much.
Very well.
Thank you.
But I would be interested in if you don't mind just sharing where people can find you. Are you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram?
Absolutely, yes. Our Facebook page is CTC Conservation Center. You can find us there. We have several websites which we bought, wildlife.ug, safari.ug and zoo.ug. Those are all our websites. The website is not yet functional, but by the time this is aired, or hopefully by the beginning of next year, our websites will be functional with information about the project and bookings available and things like that. And we do hope to open this project to the general public hopefully by June or July 2021.
Now, this is mine. All the rest was simple for me, for the audience.
Absolutely.
The final one. You seem to have, of course, you said you have quite a long journey with wildlife,
yes.
reptiles, and everything. But I would be interested in knowing, from your personal perspective, what lesson as humans can we learn from wildlife? Is there anything that we can pick from their book that we can learn to maybe be better humans? What lesson would you think of as, yeah?
In a greater picture, I would say we are part of it. We are part of wildlife. It's all interconnected. Everything is interconnected on our earth here. So I think there's a lot to learn, and I think there's a lot of respect we need to give to the environment and to wildlife, because at the end of the day, we coexist and we depend on it. So I think the more people can learn about wildlife and generally the environment and the connectivity between everything on this planet is to the benefit of us. Because we can't live if the environment isn't healthy and the species aren't there. So I think it's a very important part of education that people learn a lot about conservation, wildlife, and the environment as a whole. So I believe there's a lot to learn. Social interaction, like hyenas, for example, is very interesting. Every animal has a different social hierarchy. In hyenas, it's the females which are in charge all the time. So the males always are, or the females always are dominant. And if you go to different groups of animals, with the lions, it's the opposite. The male is always the dominant. The male eats first. The females hunt, but the male will eat first. So there's a lot to learn about social interaction with and from animals as well. And in general, as I said, I just think it's good to learn as much as possible about the environment, because we depend on it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We could chat on and on, but we need to let Thomas go. Of course, we had an incredible time. He has so many dogs here that welcomed us when we came in. So much hospitality here. If you are watching this and you had a good time, just as we did, of course, watching from your end of the screen, please do hit that like button, share this content as well, and let's continue to spread the conservation and tourism vibe. And if you've not yet been to Uganda, so many things are coming up, and there's incredible projects like what we have here at CTC Conservation Center. So from my side and from the Let's Talk Tourism team, I would like to say thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.